kind of remain?
Well, I used to hang out with Scott a lot when I first moved to town. Like him and I would just hang out a lot, play a lot of video games, or just hang around. And I hung out with Chris for a while too. But I didn't really start hanging out with Jared much until we were playing music together. But there were people that I would see around, and like you'd see him out. So things were happening often enough there I mean, that's kind of the beauty and the total agony of living in Olympia is like there was always something going on, and if you went and did anything at all, you'd see somebody you knew there. Like that's pretty much all you'd see is people you knew and saw every day whenever you did anything. So, um, you just kind of build up a casual relationship with everybody in town.
What uh, what was Scott's diet like?
Well, pretty much like mine, go to Lucky Seven and drink a lot of soda brought from there, and he would drink a lot of beer. I didn't drink beer, but um, Scott was definitely kind of one of those guys that eats cereal a lot later in life than most other people. And yeah,
What did you think about like the period of time like after the band when Jared and Scott were like doing different things? Did you hang out with them much then?
well, they'd moved away basically. Scott moved up to Seattle, and Jared was up there too for a while. I mean, he was out in White City, but he was basically in Seattle. But I just remember running into Scott one time, and he hadn't been playing with anybody for a while, and I just told him that if he didn't start playing music again, I was going to kick his ass. And I just meant that as a compliment. It was just like I missed seeing Scott Jernigan rage on drums, and so that's pretty much what that was about.
Why do you think he was not playing for a bit?
Uh, I don't know. I mean, he was playing with the Bronze for a while, but I mean, I think it was so easy for all of them to play together. They worked really easy. That was I mean that's a big reason why Carp I think did as well as they did is that they had so much chemistry with each other, snarky or not, that that's why they could like still be kind of disparate from each other and get together and like play awesome shows. And um, it seemed like they were just kind of depressed at how things were going amongst each other as well as just other stuff.
And then you got to be right at the middle of when, like, if you could maybe talk about that time period of when they decided like, oh, whatever they decided, like, oh, we're over this, or oh, we can come back together again.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's funny because like I can't remember how that ended up happening. That I ended up playing with them. I'm pretty sure it's when like I ran into both of them at a High on Fire show, and we just talked about jamming. And I think I already knew that Jared and Scott had started like playing together again, but um, yeah, I'm not really. I don't remember. That's funny because it actually has something to do with me.
What was it like playing with them?
It's pretty awesome. I mean, like I had to commute up to Seattle to do it, so I would go up there, and um, Jared just wrote stuff constantly, kind of the way he does. Like he just comes up with riffs all the time, and he would just work on the old songs, work on some new ones. We had a practice space out by these foundries in Georgetown, and out South Seattle, and I don't know. It's kind of like the first time I actually had like a practice space since I'd been in the Melvins to work on stuff with somebody. And but there was so much like time element focused in on it because like Jared would have to come in after work or whatever, and then he would have to leave, and so it was basically just like 2 times a week for an hour. We would actually practice, and then I would spend about 4 to 6 hours all around that, trying to get there, get home, do whatever I'm doing in Seattle, wait for the traffic to subside before I could go home, and stuff like that. So it was kind of like there was a lot of build up for practicing, but it was really fun. And like I don't think I've ever like yucked it up as much as I have like with that band. Like it was it was just super fun hanging out with them all the time. They're such a comedy duo.
Yeah. What I forgot spaced out. That practice situation sounds absolutely awful.
It wasn't the worst. It's not the worst I've ever done for
Oh,
sure.
really?
Well, I mean, the worst was like being in High on Fire when I had to commute from Olympia down to Oakland for
Oh,
practice.
yeah, that's pretty bad.
But we
Well,
would.
but then you just go. You're like on a mini vacation, though, right?
I wouldn't call it a vacation, but basically what we would do is just practice before tour. But
Oh, right.
yeah,
But you go for more than one day.
yes, and that kind of caused havoc on other parts of my personal life, being gone all the time. So yeah, but yeah, is it getting too dark?
It's getting
Pretty
pretty
dark.
dark.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe we should. Let's see.
Do you have lights with you?
No,
Okay.
I'm gonna bump up the gain a little bit. Um, and and interest of light, like let me ask you some more like summation type
Okay.
whole story kinds of things. So when you look at the whole kind of carp, thing, what do you think is the kind of like the carp story? When you look at it.
Geez, well, I've never really thought about what the carp story would be. Um, I don't know if I've got an answer for that. Honestly, that's that's just kind of too much for any, especially something like I've been around a long time. But I mean, they had so many different phases going on that, and things changed for them. They had, I mean, they had some rough times with Chris's depression and all that stuff. So, um, by the end of it, I really don't know what their story would be at all. Like, I think I kind of missed what their original story was, to be around it often and directly. And I would say that that's kind of more of what they were about. Or it sounded that way to me from the way my friends that were still in Olympia all the time described them. I mean, they were like a real vital band in that town, and um, they were a spearhead of youth for sure. And they really I think they really opened up Olympia more than people wanted to admit at the time to other, like, they made other people open to the idea of music coming from Olympia from all over the place, who normally would just say like, fuck that Riot Town shit or Riot Girl. I mean, we just write it off.
Did you ever get an idea from either of them, like what they felt like, what it was like for them to lose Carp or to not have it anymore?
Well, I mean, in a way I feel like I understood that there was loss from Carp dissolving, just in the fact that Jared and Scott really wanted to get to play. Like, they lost the fun of playing together with their friends, and that's why they started playing together again. And I mean, the only reason that ended was because Scott died. So um, I think once they started playing together again, like, regardless of me being in the band or if it had been anybody else, like, I think they realized that they could still have a really good friendship and still make music together and just really enjoy it, no matter what. So I think they definitely got that back.
And what was that period of time like for you guys when Scott had his accident?
And that was hard. That was, like, I don't know. We really kind of splintered. I did, at least. I know I pretty much kind of fell off the face of the planet for the summer. I spent pretty much that entire summer just trying to deal with, mostly with that death, but there was actually, like, I knew 12 people that died that year, and it was just like, every couple months there'd be some new tidbit of awful news or whatever. But Scott's definitely, like, his death has hit me harder than almost any other loss I've had, and it helped me figure a lot of shit out, for sure. And um, I mean, so there was a gift in that for me. But I know it was really hard for Jared, but I don't really know where he was at that summer, because we weren't, like, we talked and stuff, but not nearly. I mean, it was hard to talk about too. And he's, I mean, it seems to me like he really started doing a lot of his talking by playing music again, and that's how he really worked a lot of that stuff out. So
Yeah, what I mean, I think like it's a really interesting thing. Like they have the situation that goes on with Chris because ultimately they have like what you were talking about, like have fun, play together, have this thing,
It
and
definitely
then
became
there's
not fun for
life,
them. Yeah, and
and he's kind of forced to kind of it's just like it happens one time and then again and then um, so what do you kind of think of when you think of like what he's kind of had to do to keep going? Do you know what I mean?
Chris,
No, Jared.
Jared. Well, I just think it's awesome that he's doing. I mean, he's not sitting around worrying about stuff. He just kind of started moving in his life, and he's still doing it. So, um, I don't know. I mean, like everybody's got to deal with whatever kind of loss, death or loss of purpose in a band, perhaps, or whatever. Everybody deals with it differently. So, um, I mean, just the fact that somebody's dealing with it on any level at all is great, and I'm all for it.
Yeah. What do you feel like you have to do to kind of like move through those situations?
Hmm. For me, I mean, it's really just been about accepting acceptance and letting go of things too, and not always trying to hold on to what once was, which is not easy. I mean, I still have problems with that in a lot of ways, but that's basically the only way you can move, and not necessarily forward in your life either, but just to be like back on the path of life where you're not just completely static and getting, I don't know, constipated spiritually.
You talking about just like allowing things to change and
Yeah, I mean, like you got no control over it all. When you lose something like that, that's it's gone. But I mean, there's still things there for you to. There's still all these gifts you can find from your past, but to like deal only with the past, you'll never. It seems like you'll never find those things. Um, you can't just dwell on your past forever.
right. It seems like you're almost like describing like this weird rope where you have to like on the one hand
Well, it
you
is. It's
have
like
to
being in. It's
acknowledge your
basically being in
past.
the moment. Like that's what the tightrope is. It's walking the razor's edge in life. You know, you're only here now, right now. It's already gone. It's past. And living in the future is not very healthy either. Because the future is usually not what you thought it was going to be. But the past is like can kill you if you keep staying there. So
And what did you think about what did you think about big business, like if it relates to carp or how that whole thing?
well, I mean, it totally relates to Cart. It's because Jared's in it, and but I mean, it just feels like a continuation in a way, but it's totally its own thing as well. It's like it's its own thing, but it has a familiar voice in it, and that's the continuation.
Do you see Jared or do you see Chris and Scott in it at all? Like just because Jared's in it, it's like I mean I don't know.
I don't really. I mean, it seems totally different to me than what they had as a trio. There's something similar because like Kim and Cody definitely like communicate well and have a good rapport, and that's super important for Jared to be doing things to be doing things creatively on his own, especially. Um, but I don't know. I think a big business is really its own deal.
Um, what do you think Scott would think about what Jared's doing now, like playing with the mountains?
I think well, I mean, I think he'd be wanting to be playing with him. Um, I don't know. I think Scott would have been really jealous that he didn't get to be in the Melvins for a while too. I think, yeah, but I think he'd be really happy that Jared is playing. Period. Scott was not a selfish person at all. Like he was super super generous, and he liked to see people happy. And so
Yeah, you were saying a minute ago, like that experience with him was just like that summer was just like super major. But then you were also saying that there was like so many of your friends. Like what?
I've had a
What?
lot of death in my life. I mean, like I've and the thing is, like Scott was weird because I'm used to people ODing or killing themselves or being murdered. Like it's pretty weird when somebody gets hit by a car or is in an accident of some sort, and I'm not like it's something you just don't see coming at all. It's just like fuck, wow, and it was hard to get over the shock of it, and it was hard to move past it. He's like somebody that I really wish I could talk to him still, like a lot more than a lot of the people that have passed on in my life. So I mean, his death just it hurt enormously, and gave me it gave me a lot too, and I don't know. I mean, it's hard to describe,
Yeah,
but
yeah, of course. Um, what was it like about him that like what did talking to him give you? You know?
Scott's is like all about like life, you know. I mean, like you've seen Mad Max, I'm assuming. I mean, you know, I it's funny because like Scott and I used to kind of like talk Mad Max at each other too, but like he kind of was like the Jim Goose character, although those characters in that are so cardboard compared to like real life and Scott. But I mean, Scott really was kind of a, a, a full bore person most of the time. I mean, he would get depressed sometimes and kind of get weighed down here and there, but like when he was not, he just went at everything all the way, and it was really awesome. I mean, he was an inspiring person to hang out with. He was fun. He could, I mean, I've been a real drippy drawers for most of my life, and even he could bring me out of that. So that's saying something.
How did he feel about playing the drums?
I don't even, I mean, like, that's where he was, you know, obviously with himself at the most. It seemed like, I mean, he fucking loved it, but he was very competitive about it actually too. He also like, you know, if he saw somebody when I was in C Average, I was talking about like I just started playing with them, and I was like, man, Brad's really awesome. He does these crazy kind of roles or whatever, and he's like, huh, that's I think I can do those. And I remember he came to a show that I played with him, and then he was he just said something to me, kind of like, I'll be I'm gonna go to practice. I can do that stuff, no problem. I just need to practice it a little bit, but I can totally do that. And like if I ever, you know, made comments about how somebody could totally do this crazy thing, like Scott would figure out how to do it or whatever. But like, I mean, he really can play like he could play like nobody's business
And where do you think that came from for him? Like the wanting to be like the best.
because he's a maniac. He was the maniac, man. He became the maniac, no longer Scott Jernigan. So
Um, what do you think when you look at like the kid basically that you met at the Atlas single,
mm-hmm.
and the pretty much adult that you knew in the whip? Like, what do you think about same person,
No,
different?
I mean the same person, but like shaped by a lot of different things in his life, and like growing for sure. Like, I mean, when I first met Scott, he was so obnoxious that like he wasn't really the one that I wanted to hang out with or anything like that. Like Jared was a lot more like grounded, and I felt more comfortable talking with him or whatever. But like, I mean, as I got to know Scott over the years, like was a really like he's just a really gentle, kind person. Like he really cared about his friends. He loved people a lot, and like he was he was turning into a like super awesome man. You know, the older he got.
And what about Jared?
Likewise, I mean, like Jared has really always been on this. He's just so level to me. Like he really rolls with the bumps in his life, and just you know, he's like good natured. Always, you know, comedy is important, and I think that's awesome. Like that's what I think I like the most about hanging out with those guys. Like comedy was almost number one, and then like playing music was part of the fun of having all that comedy time, and like they just like to have fun together, and like I don't know, it's good to be around people that enjoy life.
That's actually the end of the tape.
Awesome.
But I think that maybe is good. Like that sounded like a good place to.
Yeah.
um, any else last? No?
I don't know. I mean, if there's any more questions you got, but
No, I think that's pretty good. I mean,
well,
well,
you have most of this done already, right?
no, I mean I have a lot of it shot.
That's what I mean.
Yeah, yeah. Um,
Oh. How many hours do you think you got so far?
well, I got